Hello and welcome back to the Trick Play Podcast. I'm Simon Chaskovsky here with Caleb Peterson, and shortly we will be breaking down all the sports-related news, rumors, and drama that you will want to hear about. This week we'll be ranking all of the new NFL uniforms that came out this year and how good we really think they are. Then we'll talk about what A-Rod had to say about Sean Payton talking crap about his old coach, and maybe we'll swing by the NHL and talk a little bit about Tarasenko heading to the Sens. Caleb? Are you ready to go?
Absolutely.
So the score dropped a ranking of all the uniforms released in the NFL, and we're going to be taking a peek at them and just seeing what we think. And me and Caleb both put together our own rankings for it. I'm slipping all over the place to start this thing off. Caleb, or you know what? Caleb, are you ready to go?
Yep.
Do that. Okay. We can start with what the score have at number 11 with the Indianapolis Colts Indiana Knights alternate uniform.
Yeah.
What do you think of theirs? What do you think of those ones?
Yeah, we'll just go through the list and then I'll say where I have it in mind. So
Sure.
I think I didn't love this uniform immediately. I think it just everything in this uniform clashes. It's the black with the blue that's textured really weird. Like if you guys have like a picture of it, just zoom in on the blue and it's like, I don't even know what to call that, but it's kind of like TV static-ish. It kind of looks not great. However, I think this is one, I'm probably going to say this a lot during this segment, but it's one of the things where, goodness, sneeze. It's one of those uniforms where I feel like once I see it on the field, I could be turned around. Like, that shade of blue could pop on the field. The black helmet could pop on the field. As of right now, I feel like it's just a little bit too many clashing elements. I put it at 9 on my list. I don't think it's the absolute worst. I think there are some that are just lazier. This one, I feel like at least they tried. They tried to do something different.
Yeah.
I don't think it worked, but at the same time, there's like a couple that I think are much worse because they just gave up.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I actually agree with you, because the way that I kind of look at this is I kind of picture what I think it's going to look on the field, because at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? How it's going to look while they're playing. And that's why I actually have them at 8, which is obviously, we're both putting it higher than they have here, because I think they're pretty hard on it. I actually like the uniform. I agree, the TV static blue is kind of it's kind of wacky, but looking past that, I actually do like it. I do like the shade of blue. I really like the helmets. I think the helmets are cool. I've always liked when teams use black helmets. I've always thought that looks really cool. So yeah, I think 11 is a little harsh. There's definitely a lot worse on this list. I can definitely tell you that. But we can move on if you want to do that. Or yeah, you know what? I actually like the way that we can move on to number 10, which is the score has.
The one thing I'd say about the Indiana one, just before you move on, is like, I know you say you like black on a helmet, but I do think you have to pair it right with something. I think that's my biggest issue with it, is that when it's paired with this blue, it just doesn't work. That's why I'd have it a little bit lower. And honestly, like, when I see it at 11, I'm not too upset about it. It's not great, but there is worse.
Well, I mean, there is worse. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like, honestly, I've found that there's a lot on this list that I really, really like, but there's also a lot on this list that I really don't. So I don't feel controversial in saying that, like, this is not the worst. Like you said, they tried, it's new. I think that's the biggest thing with alternate uniforms. It shouldn't look like your normal uniforms. It should be different. And that's one thing that this is. It's different. So on that standpoint, it's definitely better. But we can move on to number 10, which is the Arizona Cardinals' completely new uniforms, which I don't know how you feel about these. I am not a fan. I'll say that.
Yeah, I hate these so much. These are my 11. These are my worst.
Okay.
I hate them so much. When I say like they didn't try, oh my god, they didn't try. I hate it so much. It looks like you took a stock, like if you just looked up a black football jersey and Google stock images, this would be what shows up. There's nothing on these uniforms. There's no
what it looks like?
Design.
It looks like when you're like relocating a franchise in Madden.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It looks like those uniforms.
Relocating a franchise in Madden, those have way better jerseys than this.
No, but like that's not what I mean. The good ones in Madden, we don't need to argue about this, but the good ones in Madden look good. I'm talking about like when you relocate to like the most random city in Madden, like
Salt Lake City.
Yeah, like something like that, and you see the uniforms they have for that. That's what I picture when I see this.
Yeah, okay, that's
like it's just that it's just not there.
And
the funny thing is the red uniforms, they're definitely the best, and on that standpoint, I actually don't hate.
I disagree
Really?
so hard. I disagree so hard.
Really?
I hate so much.
They look like college
the
uniforms.
Stupid name of the place across the chest. I don't care. B, I already know where you're playing. I know you're from Arizona. You don't need to tell me in big bold letters. The Falcons started this stupid trend. I think it's awful, and I think it needs to go. It's just so ugly and out of place. I don't care that you're from Arizona. Like, my God, it's just like, it's such an eyesore. At least the other ones, like, they're bland and they're simplistic, but at least they're not, like, so visually clashing. Look at how close this word mark is to the numbers.
That's true.
Like, someone
I was
just dragged that in
yeah.
Photoshop and didn't bother to adjust it. Like, they just dragged it in and said, good enough. Like, oh my God, I hate it so much. I think it's ugly. I think it's, it just hurts I cannot imagine watching these in a season. And we have to play them twice a year. At least we'll get 2 free wins out of it because Arizona's awful. But, like, I don't know, man. It's going to hurt my eyes to see this at any point. I don't know why they changed because this is just not it.
They're worse. They're definitely worse. That's not the argument I was going to make. I was just going to say that at least it's something. Like, I for one thing, I don't actually hate the Atlanta uniforms that have Atlanta on them. I actually think they look pretty good.
God,
you don't like them? I actually like them.
It's the word mark.
But
it just doesn't do it. I
was gonna say I think Atlanta did a better job with it. I think this is a lot worse than Atlanta's.
I do think Atlanta did a better job, but get rid of the stupid name of place on front of jersey.
But you gotta put something. You gotta put something on it. Like, it's so bland.
No, you don't necessarily. Just choose.
No, are you telling me that they don't need to add something to these stupid uniforms?
Okay, I think they do need to add something, but if you're gonna add something that makes it better. Don't add something that makes it infinitely
That's what
worse.
I'm saying. We agree on that.
I would prefer the red jerseys just if they were just bland. Honestly, like, without the, like, get rid of the word mark and just keep it like a red jersey. It would still be awful, but it wouldn't be, at least it wouldn't be an eyesore. Like,
you know what? I've been, like, trying to find, like, the best thing to, like, relate it to, and I honestly just can't, because the funny thing is I keep wanting to say, like, it looks like a high school uniform. It looks like a college uniform, but no, that's true. Not true. Most high school uniforms look better. Like, they are bad. I had them at, let's see, I had them at 10, so I had them the same. There's one that I think is worse.
Really, you have one that's worse. Okay.
I have one that's worse. That's not the worst. We can move on, though. Okay. We have the Detroit Lions alternate helmet. What do you think on that one?
I think this is actually really cool. This is my number 8. I think that, like, there's a big gap between 8 and 9 for me. I like most of these, to be quite honest.
What did you have at 9 again?
At 9, I had the Indiana Knights. So there's, like, a big gap for me. Like, the last 3, I think, are the ones that I actively dislike. The Lions one, I don't think it's bad. I think the article makes a good point. It's just that the helmet is really cool. I like the logo on the helmet. I like that shade of blue. I think that shade of blue is what the Lions should go for. It's like a little bit brighter than what they normally do, which I think is awesome. Yeah. I do agree with the article that I don't think it is very cohesive with the gray. I think it works. I'd give it a little more credit than this article gives it, but it isn't the best combo, especially like looking at the jersey and looking at the stripes on the side. It doesn't quite match the helmet, but yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
The thing is, I kind of agree with the article a little bit, and what you said as well. The helmet is awesome. It's an awesome helmet. It is a really cool helmet. The logo's cool. I agree with you completely. They should just move to that color because the light blue looks awesome. I like it a lot more than what they normally use. They could have made a full uniform for it, like the full light blue. Like, they didn't need. because the funny thing is I actually really like their gray uniforms. I don't know. I don't know what the opinion is on the gray uniforms. They're nice uniforms. I just feel like it's not the right uniform to put it on. There could have been better. It's not bad. Like obviously we're looking at photos of it. We're looking at 97. I forget. Oh right,
Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, I'm blanking on who that was for a second. But anyway, obviously we got Hutchinson flexing in it. It's not bad. Like, it's not bad.
No,
it's not going to be the ugliest thing. When I see it on the field, I will probably like it. Just because of the helmets.
I agree.
But it's...
They could have...
I don't know. I think I ranked it high just for the helmet. More than anything.
Okay.
Because I think the helmet is awesome. I ranked it at 6.
Wow.
Because like I said, there are some that I really hate on here. And we'll get to that. Once we get to the top, I think we're going to start disagreeing on stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
I can tell you that. Number 8, the Denver Broncos snow-capped alternate helmet. What do you think?
I agree. Like, this is the most I agree with the article. Make it blue. My God, make it blue. It would look so cool if it was blue. I think the old logo is cool. I think the old Broncos jerseys are super cool. I think when they use that brighter shade of orange, like, I think from the, like, Payton Manning era, like, they darkened up the orange a little bit, and I think that looks nasty. I think this brighter shade of orange works better for the Broncos. But my God, make the helmet blue. It like look at the old Broncos jerseys, make it blue.
You know what, Caleb? Other than the logo thing, I agree with you on that. I hate those jerseys. I despise those jerseys.
Really?
So
why do you hate the jerseys?
That combo, I don't know what it is. I really don't. I just look at it. I hate the logo. I hate
You hate the logo.
I hate the logo. I look at this because the funny thing is, I ranked this based on the entire jersey set, like the entire thing together. I don't know why I did that. For some reason, I just thought it was all completely together. I hate it. I hate that jersey combo.
Really?
You know what? I can't. The funny thing is, I can't even put a finger on it. It just pisses me off for some reason.
Really? How low did you have this?
I have this at 11. Wow, I hate it.
That's terrible opinion.
But you gotta realize it's so bad. It's so bad to me. When I look at this, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the shade of orange. I love their normal uniform, so it could be that too. I just think it's a downgrade. But God, I hate it. And I can't. The fact that I can't put a finger on it, it's just disgusting to me, and I don't know why.
I completely disagree. I think this is so
Where do you have it?
I think this is
Did you have it at 8?
I had it at 6. I really like it. Like I
really?
think they should have just made that. If they made the helmet blue, I think this solves a lot of like my issues with it. Just match the blue on the shoulders with the instead of making it white. Like I don't think the white does enough. But I really like the Broncos retro style. Like I think it's really cool.
Oh, you mean like the same color as on the shoulders?
Yeah, if they made
like
that helmet blue.
Okay. If they did that, I agree.
Blue,
you know what? That would look pretty.
Pairing.
That would look good. I hate that. I hate it. Other than that, I hate it. Maybe that's what
I don't know.
It is.
I think that shade of orange is really
don't
nice. Know. Like that's gonna pop on the field. That's gonna pop on the field. I think that'll look like seeing that on like Sunday. Well, maybe not Sunday Night Football because the Broncos are ass. But seeing that in Sunday.
Yeah, no, don't
seeing that on Thursday Night Football.
Don't say Sunday.
Like I think it'll look really good. I think it'll pop.
Yeah, I totally agree. Seeing them on Thursday night will be really cool. But past that, no, I hate them. I can't even pretend they're ugly as fuck.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Anyway, we can move on. The Cleveland Browns whiteout. What do you think of those?
I really don't like it. I think this.
Really?
I hate it.
This is the one that. This is. You know what's the funny thing? Like, it's almost the same helmet. They just to the Broncos. If you actually look at it.
Oh yeah.
They just take the logo off, and for some reason I like it more.
No, it's so. Oh my God. Okay, this is awesome.
Maybe white. Maybe it works better. I don't know if it's just because it works better with the white uniform or like what it is. I like it.
Okay, I don't even.
Although I am fully acknowledging the fact that doesn't make any sense. I'm going off of like gut feel when I look at this. What I feel. I don't know. And the annoying thing about that is when you do that, it's hard to put into words why you hate it. But God, I hate the Broncos one. And then I scroll down a little. I'm like, yeah, that's all right.
No, I really don't like this Browns uniform. And so I just think it's very lazy. And I think, I don't know, Browns uniform designers have to have it so hard because their uniform is already so ass. And they, like, what are you going to do? Your team is based off a color. Like, I know that's not what they're named after, but still, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just so over. There's a reason I say like lazy. It just feels so oversimplified. I don't love these whiteout jerseys. Even the Bengals one, which everybody seems to love, like the white Bengal. I think it's kind of cool, but just looking at it in a game, it just, I don't know. Like I do agree, it's kind of a gut feel thing. It just kind of icks me. It just feels like there's a little bit lazy and
it's hard to put into words exactly why you hate it, but you just hate it.
It's not. It doesn't feel like particularly offensive. It just feels a little bit lazy. What something the article says earlier, it's like, oh, with the Indiana Knights uniform, they were saying like, oh, it feels like they're doing black just to like hop on the trend or whatever. That I feel like that's more of a thing for this whiteout uniform. Like I've seen this whiteout uniform so much more, and I don't know. I don't know if the Browns are the one to pull it off. At least I guess at least it's something different from their normal style, and I can't really say they could have done something better, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. Like seeing a pure white football helmet. What did you like? Go to Sport Check and pick up like 20 football helmets off the shelf and put a stripe on it? Like I don't know, man. The brown that's the one thing. It's like like I get why the Bengals do it. They have the stripes and the tiger stripes on the helmet. That's cool.
Yeah.
But it's the Browns. You literally your team logo is not having anything on your helmet. That is your team identity. Why would you oversimplify that? Why would you oversimplify the helmet that is already the simplest in the league?
That's fair.
That's why it doesn't make any sense to me.
Where did you have it ranked?
10.
I don't know if you said
10.
that.
I had it ranked at 10.
Me and you disagree on that one a lot. I'm now disagreeing with my own rankings, so I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'll make one switch. I'm going to put it at 5, so I'm going to move one thing up. I actually had it at 4 originally. I'm moving it down to 5 now. Because now I've looked at the other uniform a bit more, and I'm like, okay. You know what? It's better. But I do like this uniform. I think it's pretty nice. I really like the white uniforms. I think it looks really cool. I think it looks really good on the football field as well. Like everything about it, just don't play them in a snow game and you'll be fine. And we can move on.
Okay.
So the number 6.
This is like a disagreement.
Yeah? Okay.
I don't know. It depends. It depends.
This one I feel like is controversial. This is a controversial uniform.
It's divisive.
It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers creamsicle throwback uniform. What do you think on this one?
I love it so much. Oh my god, this is one of my favorite uniforms in all of pro sports.
Yeah.
If I wasn't a biased idiot, I'd put it at 1. But
okay.
it's so good. The color is so good. Oh my god. I remember back in the day, I'm gonna seem like a nerd, but I was a Geometry Dash player, and I made all of my Geometry Dash like people the Buccaneers creamsicle color scheme just because I loved it so much. I don't know. Yeah. I just think it looks
this has been a long time coming for you then.
It has. I've been waiting for these uniforms to come back for so long. I think they look so cool, and that's the thing. It's like it's good to put the Browns and this right back next to each other because the Browns shows the one side of the spectrum that I hate, where it's just oversimplified garbage, and this is so unique. Like you don't see this color anywhere else in any sort of football uniform, and like that's why I love it. It's like same kind
You're changing my opinion because now I'm moving stuff around. I'm gonna move mine up a little bit. I'm gonna change one thing again. I'm changing my order as we go. But I like these uniforms too. Because it seemed like I thought you weren't gonna like these uniforms. Honestly, I had no idea that you like these because it's a controversial one. I personally, I originally had it at 5. I'm now doing a complete switcheroo because I'm thinking about it more. I did the top of my list first and made my way down, and now I'm disagreeing with myself as we're going the other way. I'm now gonna change this. I think I'll probably put this at 3. I have 2 in front of it because there's 2 in front of them that I really like. I really like these uniforms too. I think they're really pretty. I really like when teams use like bright uniforms. Yeah. Like I think those look really really cool. Like it reminds me of like, it's the same reason why I love the Flames uniforms that they like the Calgary Flames when they changed back to the retro uniforms. Like I love those uniforms so much just because it's the brighter red, it's the bright yellow. it looks like actual fire. You know what I mean? Like it looks cool.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that I like about these, where it's just a bright uniform. It looks cool, gets my attention. It's exactly what you need from an alternate uniform. So on that part, I'm switching it around on my rankings. The funny thing is, yeah, no, I still agree. Yeah, 3. I'll stick with what I'm saying now. I'll put them at 3. But yeah.
Before we move on to the next one, just like a quick 10-second opinion that I want to get from you. You said you like bright uniforms. What do you think of the Seahawks action green uniforms?
Are you talking about like the bright green ones?
All lime green.
Love them.
Yeah.
Love them.
Okay.
Love them. We've had this conversation before.
I
We have had this conversation before.
There's a reason I'm holding one up right now. I love it so much. I think it's awesome.
I've wanted to get a. That's on my list of jerseys to get.
It's really cool. I do think it can be a little bit much sometimes, but
Although I will say, I think it looks the best when they put it with the blue pants. That's like my favorite uniform in the NFL.
Good combo. That's a good combo.
Yeah. Okay, well, we can move on. We can stop talking about the Seahawks. We'll talk about them later on. But number 5, Minnesota Vikings, their throwback uniforms. What do you think on these?
I think they are really good, if not a little bit, like, I don't really see... It's one of those where I don't see how much they changed. I can see a little bit. I can see little bits of it. It's like, oh, the lettering is different. Oh, it feels more retro. And I do think... Yeah. They didn't change much, which honestly they don't have to because the Vikings jerseys are really good. I think it looks cool. I think it's an upgrade on their regular jerseys just because I don't even know how to put it. They simplified it a little bit, flattened everything out, made it look more 80s. Like it's nice. It's a clean, simple look. I really like it. I put it at 5. I think it's a good look. I don't have a lot to say about it because it's not that. It doesn't stand out that much, but I think it's a really good look, and I think it's going to look great on the field. I think it's going to look really cool.
Yeah, and I'm really happy you pointed out just the fact that the Vikings uniforms as a whole are really good, because I was going to say that too. That's why the fact that they didn't change a lot instantly puts it high up, even though I made the point about how alternate uniforms should look different. The Vikings uniform is one that I've just loved. Like, there was a point in my life where I chose what teams I liked based on the coolest uniforms, as a 6-year-old kid does. If the Seahawks weren't in the league, I would probably be a Vikings fan. Like, just because of the fact that I love their uniforms. I've always loved their uniforms. They're so cool. I love the purple. I love the yellow. I love the way it clashes. It looks just awesome. And I actually had them originally at 3. I'm arguing with myself now. My ranking's gonna end up like all over the place if you write these all down. But I'm choosing now to put them at 4. I'm gonna say that. I'm kind of moving shit as I go. Whatever. It's uniform rankings. Cry me a damn river. We can move on. Okay, Philly Eagles, the Kelly Green uniforms. What do you think on these ones?
They're so cool. They are really good.
They are so cool.
They are really good. Anytime I play the Eagles in Madden, I switch to these uniforms because they look so much better. That shade of green is awesome. The shade of silver they use for the wings is awesome. Like, it looks so good. The way they play off each other is so good, and I don't know what it is, but can I just quickly
say this is the difference between Arizona's uniform in like simplistic and the Eagles uniform where it's simplistic. This is like 2 complete opposites. Because the Arizona uniform, complete dog shit, looks like trash. This is simplistic. Like, the jersey there's almost nothing on it. It's just a completely green jersey with a cool helmet. And it works awesome. Like, it looks like it's an awesome jersey. I love it. Like, it's just, this is how you do it right. Arizona, take notes. Like,
and I think there's 2 things with that. I think it's number 1 is that this jersey has history behind it. They're not doing it just to cop out of actually designing a jersey. The second thing is it's not monochrome the whole way through. That's another thing I don't like about Arizona. It's red the entire thing, the jersey and the pants. This one, it's the green jersey up front, but it pairs it with the silver pants. That's part of what's so nice. The silver pants with the stripe down it, it's the pairing of the silver and the green that makes it good. Because the jerseys are just one color, but it's the pairing of the silver and green. That color combination is so good that you don't need anything more. Arizona, it's just red. I don't care.
Arizona, do better. That's
Yeah.
the end note of this entire thing. But where do you have them? I'll let you go first.
I have them at 3. I have them at 3. I
Okay.
really like them.
Yeah.
I really like them.
Me and you are we're gonna fight when we get to the end of this. I have this at 1.
You have this at 1.
I think
That's
this is.
That's not that. I'm not mad about that. I'm not mad about.
You're
that.
not mad about that?
That's fine.
I think
That's
that this is
totally
a
fine.
beautiful. This is like perfection.
Yeah,
If
no,
you, because going back to what I said at the beginning, I think an alternate uniform should pop. It should be different. It should be something that when I compare their regular uniforms and this, I can go, yeah, like that's different. Like that's you can see. Either it's retro, which in this case it is, or it's just like a different color or something. And this has it. Whatever that is, it has it. It is a great uniform. And for that reason, I think it's everything that an alternate uniform should be. And on that standpoint, I have no issue putting it at 1. I think it easily goes above all the ones here. Not easily. There's one that I'd probably put. It's a close fight. But past that, I have no issue putting it at 1.
Yeah, that's fair. I have a top 4 that if you swapped out any of my top 4 and put them in the 1, I'd be like, yeah, no, I can see that. And Eagles is one of them. Like, I'm not going to be mad about that.
Yeah. Okay, well, we can move on. This one, we might fight on based on that.
Okay.
But number 3, New York Jets, legacy white throwback uniform. What do you think?
I should like this a lot more than I do. I don't love it. I had this at 7.
I don't like it either. I don't like it either.
So-
it is not a pretty jersey.
The
The helmet's nice.
There's the point. There is the exact thing. I think we're pretty much on the same page. The helmet is awesome. That is the coolest Jets logo there is. Their logo right now is not great. Like, I'm going to pull up. I've got their mini helmet right here. Like, this abomination is not great. Just throwing a bunch of words in a circle, throwing in a football, and calling it a day. That's lame. The Jets
That is
lettering
lame.
with
I agree.
that plane over the top is really cool. That's how
It
you
is
design
cool.
a logo.
Because that's the thing. When I look at this uniform, if you take the Jets logo off and take Aaron Rodgers' dumb face out of it, I would think that I'm looking at a Saskatchewan Roughriders uniform. I honestly would. Like, it doesn't look like a Jets uniform. And I just don't like it. One thing that I've always hated is, the longer I look at it, the more I hate it, especially in the photo
Really?
of A-Rod. I'll see if I can grab this while I'm editing and throw it on there. If I forget, I forget, but whatever. It's a photo of A-Rod where he's looking at the camera. It's like the collar. I hate it. I hate the big collars whenever they do that. Like a different color, it's the big collar. I hate it. It's so ugly. Why do you do that? Get rid of it. If you're gonna make it all white, take that out. We've been talking all about, like, other than the Eagles, they're the one exception, how simplistic is bad. In this case, simplistic would have been better. I think if you get rid of that collar, it's a better jersey. I still don't like it, though. I feel like that green helmet would go better with a green jersey. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. That was what I was gonna like. I'm looking up right now. I'll see if I can like try to hold this up to the screen. But the if you paired this with if you paired it with a green jersey, even like the green jerseys they have now, it would look so much better.
Yeah,
If you
for
did,
sure.
honestly, if you did the thing that a lot of these other teams have done and just made it an alternate helmet, you don't even need to add the jersey element. Just make it an alternate helmet and throw it in with the regular jerseys. Maybe you have to do some shade matching or whatever, but I think it would pair a lot better because I just don't like the white. It feels like an away jersey. It just feels like they're wearing
It
a
does.
road jersey, and for an alternate uniform, which
You know what it makes me think of? You know what it makes me think of? It's everything I hate about the old, like, 2010s Flames jerseys. I keep going back to the Flames. It's everything I hate about those ones. Like, just the white, like, away jerseys.
Yeah.
Do you know the ones I'm talking about? I always hated them as a kid. It's for all the same reasons that I don't like this. It's when I look at this, that's what I think of for some reason.
Yeah, and that's fair. Like I'm not the biggest fan of it either. I don't know, where did you have it ranked?
I had it at 9. I have no issue saying that I don't like it. The helmet's fine. The helmet's nice, but other than that, it's not good.
I don't know. I like it a little bit more. I think the helmet makes me able to ignore the jersey. Like the helmet is so clean.
Yeah,
But It's different than the Lions where the helmet is clean but it doesn't match. Like the helmet.
I'm kind of mad. Can I just
helmet,
say, as we get into the end of this, I'm kind of mad at myself for where I put some of these rankings.
okay.
Like I disagree with myself.
Is it the next one that you're upset about?
Yeah, I'm looking at the next one and I'm like, I kind of disagree with myself now. The more I look at
I want to hear about it.
But,
I want to hear about it then.
Okay, well we can move on then. Number 2, Tennessee Titans, Houston Oilers throwback uniform. It's growing on me. It's growing on me.
Where did you put it originally?
I had it originally at 7, and as I've been staring at it throughout this entire thing, I keep coming back to it. Well, to be fair, it was 7 with the fact that I was like, I need to look at this more. And the longer I've been looking at it, it's been slowly creeping up. Because, like, I'm looking at who I had in front of it, right? Originally, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking with this first one. I had it in front of the Colts. Or I had it behind the Colts, sorry.
Jeez.
I can fully admit, put it in front of the Colts. Then the Lions, put it in front of the Lions. And then we're starting to, put in front. So I'd probably put it at 4. 4 is where I
okay.
have it.
Now we're agreeing.
If I were to move these around.
I have it.
Yeah.
At 4
If I were to move my previous rankings, if you try and write down these rankings, you're gonna be so it's mine are gonna be all over the map. But like now, I probably have it 4. Originally had it at 7. It's growing on me. For a lot of the same reasons I said, I do like the colorful uniforms. I don't know. I don't know. There's something about it that I don't like. You know what it could be? You know what could be the reason? Yeah, you know what? I found it. If in the photo that we're looking at here, I'm going to have to throw a ton of photos on the screen for the podcast. Sorry for the Spotify listeners. In the photo, we have Derrick Henry here. He's wearing Allen Iverson style sleeves, and they're orange. And I hate it. I hate the orange sleeves. They are pissing me off, and I don't like them. But then you go down to the photo of Tannehill. That's a good uniform. You take out those bright ass orange uniform or sleeves, it's great. That's that. You know what? I think that's it.
I actually don't.
I think that's why I didn't like it.
I don't.
You don't mind the sleeves
at all.
Hate them.
I don't think
they look so bad.
I don't think they look bad. I think it looks really good, actually. I think the shade of blue that they use for the Oilers is like really, really cool. Which is part of why like it's awesome that they kept the same kind of color scheme going into Tennessee, because I think it's one of the nicest color schemes in the NFL. That like baby blue on the reddish orange. I think it's a great color combination.
It is. And I definitely agree.
And it's just like a really cool retro jersey. I like.
And you said you had it at 4?
I had it at 4, and it's one of those again.
Okay.
The top 4 is all interchangeable. Where I wouldn't be upset if you placed this at 1. Like I wouldn't. It's very nice.
It is. Yeah, it's growing on me. The more I look at it, because like the funny thing is, I probably would move this around even more. Now that I'm looking at a photo of it without the sleeves, I hate the sleeves. I can fully admit that now that I'm looking at it, the more I look at those orange sleeves, the more I hate it. It just, something about it pisses me off. But past that, you take off the orange sleeves, ban the players from wearing orange sleeves. It's a great uniform.
Simon, just stare at the picture of Ryan Tannehill, and then it'll slowly move up the list.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill's sexy biceps are slowly helping me out. But
and again,
we can move on.
This is another one that will just play really well on like prime time. Just at that last point, and like I can just it's another one that I feel like will play so well on the field. Like it'll just look so cool and evoking those. It's the same kind of thing as my number 1 pick, which is obvious at this point. But it just like the idea of seeing these jerseys again after not seeing them my entire life, right? Like since the 90s. Like it's just gonna look so cool. It's gonna look amazing.
It is. It's gonna be cool. We can move on. We can let you have your 20-minute long rant segment about how it took too long. Seattle Seahawks 90s throwback uniform. What'd you think?
It's everything I ever wanted. Oh my god, I love it so much. It is so good. It's so good. It's even better than the one. So the one I have on right now is one I got from like NFL Shop when I was like 15. Just because I thought the throwbacks were really cool. I don't think I'm biased for saying that the Seahawks have the best jersey set in the NFL. Their home uniforms, like away uniforms, awesome. That design is so cool.
Yeah.
There's so many cool elements of it. I'm pulling it out right now. I don't care if this segment is like already so long. I don't care. like looking at my old Russ jersey, the color of it so cool. I don't know what these little swish things are, but they're awesome. Adding them on the numbers too, so cool. The blue and the green, this specific shade of blue and green work so well together. I think their home uniform is one of the best in the NFL. Like, and these like the gray too, so cool. Even then, throwing this aside, I won't throw it into my food because that would be bad. I don't want to wreck my West jersey as much as he hurt my heart. But the throwbacks are so good. They're so good.
They're pretty.
Coming home from work and watching that video of Jackson Smith and Jigma waking up and like going through all his things with the jersey on and then putting the helmet on. I've never been more hyped for anything in my life. It's just it's the combination. It's that royal blue with the silver.
Yeah.
It works so well. And this is where
you know what it immediately reminds me of?
What's that?
Just to like throw on the I've already made a comparison to this already once. The Flames like alternate jerseys when they brought back those as a permanent jerseys. That's what I think of when I see this jersey because it's just
it
like
pops.
It's it's just so perfect, right? Like it is so good. And that's the funny thing. Like you can talk as much as you want about how perfect the uniforms they already wear are, which is true. I agree with that. Like they are great uniforms. If they made these the permanent uniforms, I don't think I'd be complaining. These are pretty uniforms.
They're totally really good. I will push back on that a little bit because I do think it would lose the allure a little bit if you made these the permanent uniforms, just because you'd be losing much by you losing their home uniforms, and I'd feel like I'd have a piece of my childhood ripped out from under me. But like I wouldn't be, I'd be upset more with what we're losing in the home uniforms than upset with the actual jersey that's going in because it's so good.
Yeah. It's such a good uniform.
And like again, just to make my point, like comparing it to the jersey I have on right now, there's an alteration that they like. This is a much darker blue on the throwbacks that they already had than the blue they chose. Yeah. They made it pop so much more, which I think in comparison to the creamsicle, and maybe other than my bias, why I put the 90s Seahawks ones above the creamsicle is because where the creamsicle, like the article makes the point, I do think that still pops quite a bit, but they muted that orange a little bit. It doesn't flash as much as it did in like the 80s. They made the blue pop out even more in these Seahawks uniforms. It is like, again, like maybe like throw up a photo of the beautiful Bobby Wagner standing in uniform. Throw that in my hands right now and then compare that to the blue here. Like it just, this pops so much more.
It's going to be a lot of editing for Simon.
Yeah, sorry, Simon. But, yeah, no.
It's okay. I'm doing it to myself, too.
But, yeah, no, I could wax poetic about these forever. I'm going to Seattle in November to watch them play the Commanders, and I can tell you the first thing I do when I pull up to Lumen Field is buying a throwback jersey. Immediately. We did lose the Wolf Grays because of this, which is, like... Bless their hearts. I was going to get a Wolf Grey jersey, but I guess I ran out of time. But it's a worthy sacrifice.
The gray jerseys were pretty cool.
I'll forever remember all the times we lost in Arizona with those jerseys on. R.I.P. But, yeah, that's an easy number one for me. But,
yeah.
I've done a lot of talking. I'll end off my thoughts on the list as a whole by saying... I don't know why it took the NFL this long because I know it's a lot of new uniforms that have come out, and that is not a coincidence because the NFL is one of the stupidest corporations in all of like America and the world because they had a rule that stated you could not wear an alternate helmet. You had to stick with your one helmet for the entire season. If you wore another helmet, then it's against the rules. They did that for a long time in the 2010s. I don't know why. There's a reason the Seahawks throwbacks are just coming back now, because they finally revoked that rule. So now all of these cool throwbacks are coming back in. I don't know why it took them this long. Like, even with some of the other jerseys we talked about, like the Action Green, why not have a helmet that matches that uniform? Like,
that would be cool.
I have one right here. This is a concept of Seahawks lime green helmet. This would look so cool with that jersey, but because of this stupid NFL rule, it doesn't. But now we're finally getting that. I guess thank you NFL for finally getting your head out of your own ass.
Pulling the stick out. Pulling the stick out.
It really it shouldn't have taken this long. I'm thankful that it's happening now, And honestly, I think this is going to be one of the most fun seasons I've had watching football in a long time, just because of all these new uniforms, good and bad. Honestly, just because it's
Because the
gonna
bad
provide
ones
a
you can
lot
laugh
more.
at.
Yeah, the bad ones you can laugh at, and the good ones are going to be a true spectacle. This is then a 40-minute segment, which some people may think is overkill, but I do think it's something that's really cool. It'll be really cool to see, and I think it'll add a lot to this upcoming NFL season. As we're kind of barely getting out of the doldrums of the NFL offseason, you start to see some insane headlines. For this week, it was Sean Payton. Sean Payton, normally a pretty chill guy, has just started taking pot shots out of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things where you wonder why he even would have said some of the stuff he said. It's completely lambasting another coach when he had really no motivation to, and he does not hold back. What Payton said a few days ago was he was referring to Nathaniel Hackett and the 2022 Denver Broncos, obviously a team that fell well below expectations, called it one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL, and said everything he heard about last season, we're doing the opposite. He also added, it doesn't happen often where an NFL team or organization gets embarrassed, and that happens here. Part of it was their own fault relative to spending so much, I assume he says fucking time, trying to win the offseason, the PR, the pomp and circumstance, marching people around and all this stuff. We're not doing any of that. So, I don't know what you think about this, Simon. It's one of those things where I'm like, I agree, but why would you say that?
Yeah. Well, I think the entire idea, and the funny thing is, like, I can see why he did it. You know what I mean? Because I think one thing that he's definitely trying to do is he's trying to take the blame off of Russ, which is the immediate thing that comes to mind.
Fair.
I think he's trying to, because when you think about last season, I remember during the season, scrolling through TikTok, and there was a guy who was doing a series on how long it would take for Russ to throw the same amount of touchdowns as he has bathrooms in his house. And I'm not kidding. And it was one of the best things on TikTok, and I loved every second of it. But to that point, you can definitely see that the blame was definitely a lot of on Russ. Which, whether that's fame or whether that's fair or not, we'll have to see. We'll probably never know. But obviously next season we'll have to see whether Russ can bounce back or not under a new coach. But from what we did see, I don't know. I'll let you take it off here. My brain's cramping, I think.
No, I do think you make a good point though, because I didn't really see that angle of it. It definitely makes sense of him trying to take the weight off Russ, because Russ got lambasted last year, and as much as a Seahawks fan with how he ended his time here in Seattle, as much as you want to kind of like give into that, I still really like Russ as a player and a person, and I think he got too much of a bad rap last year. Yeah. I do think I'd agree with not with Nathaniel Hackett, with Sean Payton, in that a lot of it was coaching, a lot of it was injuries.
But to my point, I don't actually think he's saying these things because he believes it. I think he's saying it just because even if it becomes a headline and everybody gets mad at him for yelling at somebody, for yelling at a coach who's already out of the league and all these different things.
He's not out of the league, though.
Is he not? Wait, where'd he go? Am I dumb? Is he in the... Oh, he's with the Jets again.
Why do you think Aaron Rodgers is mad about this?
Yeah, okay, that's my bad. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not having a good start to the segment. Anyway, I think it's more just trying to put the blame in somebody else's hands as much as possible, which... On that part, I actually agree with what he's doing here. Whether he believes it or not, he's choosing to make a statement as to which side of the argument he falls on to show that he already is bought in on Russ making a comeback. He fully believes that Russ will return to the player he was before Denver, which I think as a coach is a good thing to do. Did he go too far with it? Absolutely. I think that's the thing that you need to... I think that's the biggest thing about this. He absolutely took Hackett to town. He ripped him to shreds. And I don't think you need to do that. I think it would have been as simple as making the kind of, and I think there's a lot of coaches in a lot of sports who are really good at this. It's where instead of doing what Hackett did, where he went on like a long, like kind of, he said a lot of different things, like everything I heard about last season, we're doing the opposite. That's one of those comments. I think if he had left it at that, perfect. Because everybody knows what he means. Everybody knows, like, you don't need to emphasize anything, right? But he continued to go on about how the team got embarrassed, worst coaching job ever, yada, yada, yada. Too much. You said too much. Like, at that point, you went from taking the weight off of your quarterback to just ripping a guy to shreds.
Yeah, I think, okay, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit here, Simon.
Okay.
I don't think he would have said all of that if he didn't believe it. This sounds like, yeah, sure, some of it is going to be sticking up from his quarterback, but that implies that some of this is planned, and this does not sound like the comments of a man who is planning them out beforehand. This says that he's just saying what he's feeling. And what we saw from Nathaniel Hackett, like, it all tracks. Like, this is where, again, I say I completely agree that it's one of the worst coaching jobs in NFL history.
He just shouldn't be the one to
funniest, say it. Yeah. No, like, I agree with. But, like, the sentiment I agree with so much because, like, you think back to, I think one of the funniest videos from last season is the Manning cast with that Broncos-Seahawks game when Hackett, complete idiot, you
couldn't call a timeout.
Couldn't call a timeout from like the Seahawks 40. If they call a timeout, they win that game because they're gonna get farther down the field and kick a better field goal. And it's the video of Peyton Manning that's counting up how many timeouts he's calling. I think if he calls Peyton Manning calls 62 timeouts before the Broncos call.
You actually remember that?
Gotta call a timeout here. Yeah, because I watched it yesterday.
Okay.
But I, as a Seahawks fan, I watch that every day.
Oh,
but
fair.
I think I don't know. I do think he's speaking from the heart there, and again, like I do think part of it is defending his quarterback, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was just hearing stories about what happened last year, and because it's Sean Payton, he knows what he's doing. If he was just so like flabbergasted by it all that he just needed to get it out somehow.
Yeah.
And so
I personally think that there is not a single person in the room who dislikes that Sean Payton did all this. I think that this is exactly what the room needed to hear. I just think with what A-Rod is kind of like, if we go on and move over to that side of things, where he just more just talks about how it's very surprising for a coach to do that to another coach. That's one of the things that A-Rod said. That's the sentiment that I more agree with. But if Sean Payton's goal was to try and take the blame off of his team and his quarterback, I think he probably killed it. Like, for what his goal was to do by making those comments, he probably he did everything that he wanted to do. So I'm sure Sean Payton's not mad about it. And probably the reason he didn't make a comment on it either. He just didn't feel that. There's no point in continuing the war. He started it. He wanted to start a little bit of fire. Let it end there. I think that's kind of the perspective if you're looking at Sean Payton's perspective.
I do think that the one thing that's, like you say, Sean Payton has no regrets. I don't think he does now. But the one thing that I would be like, why is he doing this, would be this sets him up so poorly if the Broncos do badly.
True.
Then
that's
if
very
he's
true.
calling this one of the worst coaching jobs in NFL history, and he comes out with the same record, like,
can I just say though? You gotta bet on yourself. Gotta bet on yourself. To that standpoint, you gotta bet on yourself in everything.
Yeah. Maybe Sean Payton, he's coming out of, like, retirement or whatever, his mini-retirement. He's just got nothing left to lose at this point where he's just like, screw it, I can say whatever I want. But it looks so bad if the Broncos fail.
True.
Like, this is going to be, like, everywhere after the season if the Broncos...
If Russ throws, only, 16 touchdowns again or whatever he threw.
Yeah. If the Broncos' offense is as bad as it was last year, yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Neither do I. I think the Broncos will actually be good this year.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that the funny thing is, I kind of agree with all the perspectives here because I think Payton went too far. I don't think he needed to say all the things he said, but I also think that he totally did that on purpose to the point of that he wanted to really he wanted to remove the blame off the players and Russ. Like I feel like I've already touched on that, but like, and then we can move on to the Jets' perspective and Hackett and Rodgers and that whole side of things. It's, I don't know. I also agree that he probably went too far. So I don't blame Rodgers and Hackett for being mad about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like I don't know. I guess it's not like, I guess good for A-Rod for standing up for his coach.
Yeah.
I don't really care. To be quite honest about what Aaron Rodgers says.
Okay, fair.
I guess part of the reason that he's also standing up for it is because there's like Payton had some jabs at the Jets too. Yeah, Payton said that their Jets are infatuated with the pomp and circumstance of their offseason, that they were a dream team doomed to fail. Yeah,
Payton apologized.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see that. Oh, never mind. Yeah. I think that's a fake apology, but whatever.
Oh, I do too. I think he stands behind every word of what
I
he
didn't
said.
read that part.
And honestly, I would too, because I would not be shocked if he is legitimately that like surprised at how badly it was handled.
Well, the thing is, he's
coming into this room for the first time and hearing all this.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, when you're walking into a locker room that had such a bad year, this is what you gotta do. You gotta light a fire under these players' ass to go like, you need to put the blame somewhere and let these players actually buy in, right? Because think about it, if Hackett was back here this year, this would be another crap year because all the players would think it was their fault, right? So on that, like, you got to put the blame somewhere, right? Like, you don't want to play the blame game, but you got to put it somewhere, and that's what Payton's doing by making those comments, and that's something that I completely agree with. Like, whether you're saying he believes it, I think I'm starting to lean that direction after your argument. I think that it was a pretty emotional statement, so you're probably right, but
yeah,
I think he went into that interview having an idea, you know what I mean, of what he wanted to get out there, is more what I mean.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, I honestly, my biggest like takeaway is I'm so happy that he said this. It just gives you something to talk about, but it's like, it's very refreshing to see a coach this like unfiltered, like, it's cool. It makes me so happy to just have him like not care what anybody says. I mean, I guess he did a little bit because he apologized, but
sure.
Like it's cool. It hurts people's feelings in the Jets, but I don't care about Rodgers or Hackett. He's being honest, and I think his remarks are true. So I don't think he should be afraid of saying that. Although I do think I honestly love Robert Saleh's response to this. I don't know if you saw that.
Where was it? I just found it.
I'm not going to acknowledge Sean. He's been in the league for a while, so he can say whatever the hell he wants. As far as what I have going on here, I kind of live by the saying, if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping, so hate away. I love that. Honestly, like that's how you respond to this. Like that's so much better than A-Rod being like, "Oh, he's such a great coach, such a great family man. I don't really care." Like the idea of just being like, he can say whatever he wants. I don't care. Like that's so much better. That's so much better. It insulates you from a lot of that potential criticism, right? Like,
yeah, just brush
it off like it's nothing.
I feel like that's I've been watching a lot of, this has been my TikTok feed for the last like week or two. That's like the Ted Lasso response to this kind of thing. Just give like a funny quote and move on.
Yeah,
like, and I appreciate that.
Bring up Ted Lasso. I'm gonna shout out. Maybe I'll end the segment with a Ted Lasso shout out. That just finished the final season. Oh my god, it's so good. If you haven't watched the full show, like, you need
I actually haven't. It's but like I've been watching tons and tons of clips of it, and now I really want to.
It's so good. It's like, Ted Lasso is one of my favorite characters in any TV show ever. The sports stuff in it is awesome. Even it's soccer, and I am very invested, and when I'm normally not. And like the emotional core of it too is like awesome. I will not be ashamed to say that I shed a few tears in that last episode. It is perfect. It is perfect TV. Watch it. Apple TV sucks, but it's worth getting Apple TV just for that. Such a good show.
Well, we can end there.
Yeah. The perfect end to a segment about a different sport.
Damn right. That's how we do it here. So now we'll move into the NBA sphere of things and talk a little bit about Damian Lillard's trade request and how it's really interesting, this entire thing. I don't know how closely you've been following it, but I've been definitely trying to pay attention to this because this has been something that's very interesting to me. How he has been very, very honest about how there is only one team that he wants to play for, which is the Miami Heat. And it's a very interesting way to do things because, I mean, if he doesn't go to the Heat, what's he going to do? Right? Like, obviously, most players, especially star players, usually have a no trade list. We're slowly moving into that style of contract instead of more of a no trade, you know what I mean? No trade policy or whatever it's called. I'm blanking. Instead of that, they usually have like a no trade list where there's only about 5 or 6, maybe like even up to 10 teams that they're willing to play for. That's usually how players do this. They usually say, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go to one of these 5 or 6 teams. Get me to one of them. We're good. And maybe inside the door, there'll be a little bit more of like, get me there, get me there, get me there. But I can't remember the last time there was a player so honest about wanting to only go to one team. Like, he did not even try. Like, he scratched out 2 through 5 and just said Miami, 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 Miami. And now the NBA is starting to crack down on it. I'm curious what you think of his approach to the trade market.
I think it's interesting. I feel like it has to be something motivated out of a frustration with where he's at, to where I'm sure he tried to get a trade to Miami going earlier, but now he's like, it has to be a leverage thing to where he's like, fine, you won't trade me to Miami. I will make it known to the public that I will not, like, I don't know if he's going to hold out, but like maybe not play until he's traded to Miami. Like, it has to be a frustration with where he's gotten to this far. And I think the biggest thing for me with this is they're threatening to crack down on him, threatening to fine him for saying he wants to be traded to the Heat. Give the poor man a break. In a league where all of the superstars...
He has been the most loyal player in the NBA I can remember before.
Let him have this.
Yeah.
Like,
that's why I don't blame him. Like, there's been like comments all over the place about like Dame's character only wanting to go to a team. Yeah, if you were playing in Portland for the last however many years, you would want to go to Miami too.
He's been there so long.
You would want to go to Miami too. Like, this should have happened in like 2018-19. We're here almost 5 years later, and finally it's happening. And God, like, I am totally just like, I don't care. Get him in Miami. I want to see Dame get a ring. Like, playoff Dame is the fun Dame. Let's see more of that. You know what I mean?
And he hasn't gotten the chance to do that in Portland. And Portland is clearly on the, like, downslide, right? Like, they're not, at least, like, if Portland was a team on the rise, then sure, because maybe you stick it out for the potential.
They are looking at becoming a younger team, obviously. They just got Henderson with the 3rd overall pick, I believe. And I personally think he's going to be a great player. Will he be a good enough player right away to slide in right beside Dame, make them a playoff team? Absolutely not. So I fully believe that Dame has all the reasons to want to get out of there. And I totally think that while I don't... The thing is, I'm on the fence because obviously it's different. That's the reason that people don't like the way he's doing things. And the NBA doesn't like the way he's doing things. It is a very different way of trying to get the trade because obviously, like I mentioned, most players give like a list of like places they'd like to go so that it's not... And usually the places that they don't want to go, there's usually a reason. Like, it's too cold, or it's Calgary, or it's like... It's, like, it's one of those things. Or they're just not good, they're not contending. It's usually one of those 4. Yeah. Here, Dame just said, it's not Miami, and that's his reason for every other team. It's, like, obviously, he knows what he wants. Respect to that, but I don't know. I personally, I'm on the fence on that style. I feel like if you want to go to a contender, say you want to go to a contender, this would already be over, but... who knows? I also don't know what Miami would necessarily give up. I feel like Like that's where I kind of struggle because in my head, here, if you want to take over here, I'll look up some Dame trade packages and we can take a peek at some of them. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't really imagine a good trade, really.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And maybe that's why they're struggling, and maybe that's why he's so insistent that he wants to go to Miami. Like I do think the reason he's doing it, and it has, because you're right. There's no logical reason why you would just come out and say it, because it gives away it. If it was between a bunch of like it gives away some of your leverage. To be like, oh,
and if I can
want to
quickly
play
jump in here,
place.
this is where my brain immediately goes to. The first trade that I have here, I just pulled up an article, the first one I saw. Lillard to Miami, Portland gets Hero, Duncan Robinson, 2028 first round pick, and a 2030 first round pick. That's kind of, I was thinking Hero, Duncan Robinson. Those are the two players that I kind of thought would make the most sense to slide over to Portland. But even on that side, I just don't feel like you're getting enough. Like if you're Portland, right? Oh my God, this second trade's wild. Lillard and Nurkic for Lowry, Hero, and 2 firsts. Holy smokes!
I don't think
There's a
that feels like
some of these trades are kind of wild.
that feels like
That second one's not happening.
That Portland's not getting nearly enough.
Oh God, no. Because I don't.
Is
I don't
Lowry
know.
more?
Lowry's not.
Is Lowry more?
Is
valuable
Lowry
than
that much
Duncan
better than
Robinson?
Hero?
Like,
Is Lowry that much better than Harrow to deserve? Oh no, Harrow's in there. Sorry,
Than Duncan
you're on
Robinson.
more than I am. Duncan Robinson to the point where you're also getting, arguably Portland's number 1 center, I believe.
yeah,
I don't know. That's an interesting one. I think the most realistic one is the first one I brought up. Harrow, Duncan Robinson. If you're Miami, you take that in a heartbeat, right? That is immediately going to get them contending. That's instantly. Like, obviously, this article that I have here makes the really good argument in the fact that Lillard's getting paid a crap ton of money and in $45.6 million. And Harrow and Robinson combined to make $45.1. That's pretty good. That's a good swap, right? Like, that'll work. And then the 2 first-round picks.
honestly,
There you go.
Honestly, like I do think that first trade is kind of realistic. So looking at Dame's contract, like he's only got 2 years left. Like, would you take
Yeah.
comparing it like I guess like Damian Lillard, like just saying this for Damian Lillard makes it seem a lot of like they're giving up a lot more. But it's instead saying it like 2 years of Damian Lillard, like that's a difference, right?
The way that I look at it, yeah, I think that I don't know. I feel like a realistic one would probably have Portland getting 1 more first.
That's fair.
I think then or even like another second. I just feel like you need to throw something else in there. Once you do that, sure. Then I'd be like, that's probably more realistic. 2 first doesn't feel like it feels like, you know, when you're making a trade in Madden. I've made a lot of Madden references in this, and like the bar is all like 99% green, but it's just nearly there. That's what this feels like. Just throw another second in there, and we're good.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. That's something that would make sense in my head. What was I gonna say? In terms of how he fits in Miami, like that feels like that would be a really good fit.
That team would be nuts.
Yeah, and pairing up with Jimmy Butler after they've now the one thing I would say, Miami got to the NBA Finals this year because of their depth. They got there because they were a well balanced team that didn't just depend on
But
Jimmy Butler.
to that point though, Harrell wasn't a part of that.
That's also true. Because he was injured.
Yeah. So he was injured. And obviously losing Duncan Robinson, that sucks. If you're trying to make the argument to me, because they have a pretty similar team going into next year when you even bring in Lillard, are you going to tell me that you wouldn't trade Duncan Robinson for Lillard 1-for-1 in that Nuggets series? Because if you are, Caleb, I'm throwing you in a pillow. And it's like that's you are nuts.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Obviously, you don't want like because I'm just thinking the NBA. Like, obviously, you're right. Like, I wouldn't take Duncan Robinson for Dame straight up. But I do think you do like depth isn't more important in the NBA than people give it credit for. Just because you look at the littered corpses of super teams that scatter the
True.
NBA lineup.
Very true.
Like, if you're depending on Dame to take you to the promised land, like, you should probably make sure you still have depth. Because I'm not just referring to the pieces they'd be giving up in the trade, but also some of the pieces they let go in free agency. You're talking about your Gabe Vincent's, I don't remember what the other guy's name is, but there's a bunch of key players that got big contracts in free agency. Like, they did lose a lot. So would this team be better? Probably. But, like, I think you maybe see, like...
We'll have to see, because you have to realize that the East is still very, very strong, especially in the higher-up parts of it.
Yeah.
I could see them being in the top 3 on the East. I have a hard time picking a number 1. I don't necessarily... So I don't know if I'd necessarily say that they'd be the best in the East. Maybe they would be. Who knows? But it's... Once you... Like, I think depth... I agree with you. I think that depth is super important in the playoffs. Like, especially when you're getting into the later parts, when guys are hurt, guys are playing hurt. You really need those guys who have been sitting on the bench all year, who are skilled and can get you points when you need them, to be able to jump in there and just be able to do what you need them to do. I don't know. I still think that this Miami team would be super strong.
Yeah.
I'd have them picked to probably go to the conference finals, if not, because last year I already had them think, like, they were obviously a very, very good team. I never thought that they were going to beat the Nuggets. I thought they were a little bit overplaying their own skill. But that being said, I still think that they're definitely a conference finals team, and you add Lillard to that, lose a little bit of depth. Either you could slide all the way, not out of the playoffs, but you could slide a little bit down, like I said, to the conference, or maybe I'm wrong and you'll win it all. Who knows? But we'll have to see what happens.
Moving on to the NHL, there's been a team we've talked about quite a bit on this podcast. They lost a big star player. They've kind of been on the edge of contention for a while, and losing that piece that we talked about in a trade kind of dampens your expectations on them a little bit. But this team has recently made a move that has kind of vaulted them back into that conversation. And of course, I'm talking about the Ottawa Senators. Losing Alex DeBrincat, huge blow. But they have tried to remedy this a little bit with Vladimir Tarasenko. What are your thoughts, Simon?
I love it. I absolutely love it. Because DeBrincat is one of those guys who, ever since he obviously had a very good season. I'm remembering from his stats from a couple weeks back, but I remember he had a very, very solid start in Chicago, had a really solid season playing on the same line as Kane. And then, since in Ottawa last year, he had a little under a point per game, I believe. But now you're getting a guy in Tarasenko. He's a veteran, he's a star, he's a scorer. He is flashy, and he will get you the goals that you need when you need them. And he's one of those guys that I almost feel like Ottawa he's a perfect fit in Ottawa. Like, the funny thing is when the Rangers picked him up, I thought that was a perfect fit too, because you're moving him on to a team that needs a veteran scorer like that. And I feel like if you were to ask me to give you a number 2 or even a number 1 where it could have been better or could have been even to him going to the Rangers, I would have said Ottawa. Because Ottawa is one of those teams where when I look at this top 6 now, Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, and Tarasenko, that is a nuts first line. You can't ask for a better first line. That is perfect. And then you got Claude Giroux, Josh Norris, and Drake Batherson. That is a great second line. And then past that, they have depth. And then on defense, obviously, we were talking about this before, Thomas Chabot and Jacob Chychrun. That's a great defensive pairing. And obviously, also brought in Korpisalo. That is a great team. Like, they brought in a lot of guys who are just perfect for this style of play. And just exactly what you need when you're trying to contend. So personally, you ask me what I think of it. I think it's a great move. I think that after seeing this move, obviously after they lost to DeBrincat and they brought in Korpisalo, I remember that I was saying that I was kind of skeptical, and that I didn't necessarily believe that a lot of these moves would lead them to being an improved team. Now they brought in Tarasenko, and you've got me back in their corner. This is going to be an awesome team to watch next year.
Yeah, I do think, I agree. And looking at this move in a vacuum, I think that it's something that's really good. I think it is a great addition. I think it was the exact right move. It's the only move you could do after losing to DeBrincat. But when you're if we're just looking this as it might be unfair to look at it as a 1-for-1 DeBrincat for Tarasenko, because there's obviously factors out of Ottawa's control in terms of DeBrincat didn't want to play in Ottawa. There were trade rumors for forever. It seemed like it was a destination he was forced to go to, and he didn't want to stay. So I can't really blame Ottawa for that, but I can't help but think that it is either a net even or a net negative in terms of swapping those two pieces out in your lineup. Because
I don't know.
we're looking at...
I just personally have a hard time. I think that when you're getting rid of a guy, because even you said it is either a net negative or a net like even, right? If I'm going to talk about it as if it's a net like even, just to kind of counter that. But if you're saying that, you're bringing in a guy who wants to be here, he wants to win, and you're getting rid of a guy who wanted nothing to do with Ottawa. And if they're the same skill level, that's a win. So to that side of things,
skill level though, and even
or
if they,
at least close.
and even if they are,
they're two different players.
You signed Tarasenko knowing fully that he may not play the whole season. I don't know if you know, Simon, what Tarasenko's injury history has been.
Yeah,
but in the last 5 years, he has played more than half of their team's games only once. 2019, 2020 played 10 games. 2020, 2021 played 24 games. 2021, 2022, that's when he had a decent...
I knew he was a little injury prone, but that is a lot worse than I thought it was.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. I still like it because I'm looking at it when you're looking at a team on paper, I don't like to think about injuries. I'm thinking about best possible scenario. We're talking about a team going into the playoffs without injuries. That is a nice team. And that's all you can do in the offseason. You have to build a good team on paper because you have no idea what's going to happen once the season starts. Obviously, it's not great to bring in guys who are injury prone. You obviously never want to do that. But when Tarasenko is healthy, he is a stud, and he will score for you. And we know that he will do that. So as long as he can stay healthy, this team is going to be nuts. And I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I do wonder, though, Simon, if you're thinking about a younger Tarasenko when you make these.
Maybe.
Because, like you said, you thought Tarasenko would do the same thing on the Rangers. If he didn't have... I don't think he elevated the Rangers. It's the same thing with Patrick Kane. They still got beaten up in the first round against the Devils. It's where I feel like it doesn't move the needle as much as it maybe should, and it feels like this it's the exact same move the Rangers made. The Rangers are a team on the edge of contention. They add Tarasenko, they add Kane as well to that lineup, just to see where you can push it. And it didn't work out for them. And that's where I'm thinking with Ottawa. You're adding this older player who I think is a little bit past his prime, and you're just hoping it can patch a hole in your lineup. And that's maybe being a little bit too harsh on it, because again, I like the move. I think it's something they had to do. I think good on them. DeBrincat didn't want to be there, but just looking at it without any of that context, just looking at how they will play as a team, I don't know if it's really going to move the needle that much. Also, because it's the difference between a 31-year-old star on the decline versus a rising 25-year-old.
That's
star.
very fair. That's fair. I just think that you bring in a scorer like that, I don't know. I'm looking at his stats right now, and you're right. There's definitely a decline there, and I think maybe a portion of that could be given to the fact that he did switch teams halfway through the season, and to that point, I like to give a little bit more of a grain of salt, just in the fact that I don't know. Once you get a full season to adjust to a team, and I think you're automatically going to do better. And it's not like he was bad last year. Last season he wasn't point per game by any means, but he was still put up a 50. He played 70 games, so he did get hurt at some point in there, and he put up 50 points, and that's split across two different teams, adjusting to different lines, systems, what have you. I could see a bounce back season from him as long as he stays healthy, just because, like I said, when you're don't have to worry about getting traded halfway through, which hopefully he won't, for his sake. Hopefully he won't, and we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll have a bounce back year. Maybe he'll play better when playing with two young stars like Brady Tkachuk and Stutzel. But I mean, we'll see. I definitely see where you're coming from, though. Like, obviously, you're getting rid of a young star in DeBrincat. You are not going to. There's no denying that that's definitely not great, and that's not good. But this is a team that wants to win right now, and I think that out of all the things they could have done, this was the right move. They brought in a guy who's going to help them win now. As long as he stays healthy, which hopefully he will, and we'll have to see what happens with how well he plays and can he have a bounce back year and what have you. 31 isn't that old yet. I'm going to be hoping for a bounce back year. If we see a bit of even a flash in the pan from an older Tarasenko, maybe putting up a 30-goal season, I think this is going to be a good team.
Yeah, and I think, like, I'd agree with some of that. I do think it's, the thing for me is, like, if I'm looking at just the team as a whole, this is the team they were last year, this is the team they are this year. I don't see that much change. Again, I say even or below, but again, it's a great move nonetheless. Like, I've been very negative on it, but I do think it's a great move. It's exactly what they needed to do after losing to Brinket, because a lot of that was out of their control. And the other credit I will give to it is looking at this lineup: Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson. The only like Matthew Joseph, looking on the defensive side, like. I know Sanderson is pretty young. I don't know how long Zub has been in the league, but they're all young players. Like, this is a very young team, especially in that top six, right?
Eric Brandstrom's a young defenseman too.
Right, yeah.
Like, they've got a very young team. That's a very good point. I think there's a little bit to be said of, I just think they'll be better just because they'll get better. Like, the players they have will have improved.
That's also,
and I think
that's fair.
Yeah, I think this will be a better team next year. That is my Simon Shaskovsky official prediction. Light me on fire at the end of next season for all the ones I get wrong.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and it adds. I mean, the one counterpoint to the providing like a veteran presence is they do already have Claude Giroux, who would fill a similar role. True. But Tarasenko adds something else. Tarasenko has a cup, right? Like, Tarasenko's been there.
There you go.
Done that.
Yeah.
It is an important presence to have in a room, and it can.
I also think though when you look at these two lines, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, two young, just great players. Brady Tkachuk, Stutzel, two great players. I think being able to put a veteran guy who's still good, like Claude Giroux, out of his prime obviously, but he's still a good player. Same with Tarasenko. Same can be said about Tarasenko. I think being able to put a veteran on that line, obviously Tarasenko's won a cup, but it's not like Claude Giroux, hasn't been around the block too. He's been on some good teams too. I think having those two guys, being able to slide them in with your young stars and be able to mix them with some veteran stars, some guys who have been around the league for a while and been at the top of their games, I think that's a good thing. And I think that can't be undervalued at all. Obviously, as for a locker room as a whole, I get what you mean by saying that you already have Giroux for that presence, but you can never have enough leadership, and I think that's an important thing. So I think that we'll see an improved Ottawa team next year, but I do understand where you're coming from with all the arguments that you've made so far, because that is definitely there. I want to be, because I think this is a fun team. I think this is a really cool team, and I'll be really disappointed if we see the negative side that you've mentioned so far, just because of the fact that, like, obviously the chance for that to happen is there, and it could happen. Hopefully it won't, but when you're bringing in guys who are older and injury prone, you're rolling the dice. So we'll see what happens with that. And now we'll move a little bit into the NHL side of things, and I mentioned this to you before we started, Caleb, about how I think that the best seasons to watch are the ones where there's a really, really tough fight for the Calder in any sport. Like, I remember in basketball, I'll go, obviously we just talked about basketball a little bit ago. One of my favorite seasons, or one of the things that I go back to, is Doncic versus Young in that rookie season. That was a super fun season to watch, because you got to see two young guys who were clearly going to be stars for both their teams, and you got to see them really fight for something that, at the end of the day, nobody really cares about and doesn't really matter, but you still get to see that competition. And when you pit two young stars like that against each other, it's just fun to watch. And I have a feeling we might be getting that this year with the amount of talent that is in this rookie class. Obviously, I don't have to tell you about Connor Bedard. He's as good of a prospect as you can get. But there are a lot of guys here as well who have just as good of an opportunity to potentially give him a run for his money. Obviously, we got Shane Wright, who has a nearly first overall pick last year, and this is going to be his rookie season. We've got, if I just were to go down the list, we'd be here forever, but I'll name a couple. Luke Hughes, Devin Levi, Adam Fantilli. I think I said that right. Logan Cooley, Matthew Nyes, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot, and as I go down this list, I find it weird that there's some of these names are so low. You know what I mean? I don't know what you think, Caleb, but personally, I think this is going to be a super, super fun Calder Trophy rush, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's easy to dismiss because most people just think Bedard will win by default because of the amount of times that he's been hyped up. But I think you do have to look at Shane Wright as a little bit of obviously Shane Wright nowhere near the player that Bedard is coming into the league. But you have to look at it. Connor Bedard is a 18-year-old kid going into play in a league with 30-year-olds. We've talked about this on the podcast.
I was going to say, we've talked about this in both with the basketball example of Wembanyama and with Connor Bedard. Obviously, Connor Bedard, undersized center. I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough based on his skill, and that's fair. We've seen those type of centers exist. I'm sure you've heard of Wayne Gretzky. But it's hard to just dismiss it to me. Where you see an 18-year-old, I think Connor Bedard is going to be a great player. I'll start with that. I think that saying that he'll have a McDavid-like rookie season is hard for me to say just because of the fact that McDavid came into the league. McDavid's like an athletic freak. That's why he's such a good player. Bedard isn't really that. He's just skilled. Like, he's got hands for days, one of the best snapshots you'll ever see. Like, he's one of those players. But he's not the athletic 6'1" McDavid that we saw. And even McDavid got injured in his rookie season.
Yeah.
Like,
and
there's...
It's the LeBron versus Wembanyama thing again, right? Like, there was a difference between how LeBron was built going into his first year, even though he was young and coming out of high school, and the way Wembanyama was built. It's the same thing, Bedard versus McDavid.
And you got to realize, we're not playing basketball. Basketball, like, as much as I've talked about how Wembanyama is, like, he's not necessarily built to defend a lot of the big league centers, and I'm sure he'll grow into that with time. I feel like in hockey, that's even more of a factor, and it's a big reason why you don't see a lot of prospects go straight to the league. Usually they spend 1 year in the AHL, CHL, what have you, just to give them that little bit more time that they potentially could need. And we saw that with Shane Wright, and Shane Wright's a big guy too. I believe he's like 6'2", 6'3". Personally, if you were to ask me where I'd put my money out of all these odds that we've got in front of us, I'm looking at Shane Wright for 3,000. I think, well, actually, that's not true. Put my money on Bedard. But if you were to tell me to put all my money, I'd put it on Bedard. But if you were to ask me to put, and told me I have to put $10 on someone to win as much money as possible, I'd probably put it on Shane Wright. That is some good odds. Like, I think that he is going to have a great rookie season because he's been given that opportunity to develop as a young player. He's coming in his sophomore season, playing in a very good Seattle team. I think that he has a really good chance to win it. You cannot talk enough about how Connor Bedard deserves to be at the top of the odds, but he's going to have a lot of people that he's going to have to step over to win it.
Yeah, and there's going to be I think expectation plays a lot into it because expectations for Bedard are so high, whereas expectations for some of these other players aren't as high. The expectations for Shane Wright after how last season went, when Seattle kind of rushed him into a starting role in their lineup, the expectations for him are so low. That's why he's so low on this odds list, despite being a potential first overall pick. Just a few years ago, before Slafkovsky was taken ahead of him, he was hyped as being that first overall selection kind of material. But so I do think expectations plays a role into how the Calder race is shaped, because if Bedard has around the same level of season as Shane Wright, Bedard may be seen as a disappointment, while Shane Wright may be seen as a revelation. That's how it kind of plays into it.
Because
think
we talked about this in our segment on Bedard when he got taken first overall. There's people who expect him to light the roof on fire in his first season. He's playing for a bad Blackhawks team, and he's an undersized center, and all of these different. He has so many things stacked against him, and I just have a hard time. If you ask me right now whether I thought Connor Bedard was going to be a point per game player, I would laugh at you in the face because there is no way. And you can replay this. I'm sure I will. Next year when Connor Bedard puts up an 120 rookie season, first player to do it since like the 90s, Yager or Solani, I just don't see it happening. I think there are so many things that are stacked up. I think Bedard is totally going to be a great rookie. I think a great rookie to me means 60 to 70, maybe closer to 60 points. I think that's what I expect from Bedard, and I think there's a lot of players on this list that I expect the same from. For example, Shane Wright, I feel like, obviously we keep going back to him, there's a lot of names on this list, but I think I could see a good 60-point rookie season, maybe 50 from Shane Wright. I'd put my money on that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad choice. And I think you mentioned something earlier about him playing on a bad Blackhawks team, and I think that's another interesting point to look up. Because I do think supporting cast impacts how well... Obviously, supporting cast impacts how well you play. I'm looking at the past... They've also got the past 10 Calder Trophy winners here. Looking at, other than some of these generational players like Nathan McKinnon is one that stands out. That was a bad Avs team at that time. But the rest of these players had a really
can I just make the same thing? I'm going to say this over and over and over. Nathan McKinnon is the same kind of prospect to the point of McKinnon where he is, or McDavid, I just said the same guy twice, where he is athletic as hell. McKinnon is a beast. You got to realize, and he was always a beast. He's a fast skater. You watch him play, and there are some times where McKinnon looks like McDavid out there. And that's why McKinnon was able to come into the league and light it on fire. Connor Bedard, when I think of a scorer like Bedard, like a guy who has an incredible shot, you look at how, obviously, my brain immediately goes to Ovechkin. And you want to hear the funny thing about Ovechkin? He's 6'3". He was always 6'3", and he lit the league on fire. And he hits people. He hits like a truck. But that's not something that Bedard has. He didn't grow up playing in the Russian leagues his whole life, right? It's two different things, I feel like. And I don't know. There's a little bit of stink that comes to me for Bedard's rookie season. I don't see him immediately lighting the league on fire, and that's not me saying that I think he's going to be a bust, because he is not going to be a bust. He is going to be a hell of a player once he grows into the league. But I think that, do I expect 82-point season in his first year? Absolutely not. But I'll let you go back to your thing of the last couple rookie players.
Well, yeah, because I think just mentioning the supporting cast around him, because that Blackhawks team is terrible.
It's
I think
bad.
That is a uniquely terrible team.
Oh, yeah. There's a reason they got the first overall pick.
There's a reason they got the first overall pick, and there's also a reason they've been desperately trying to get these random, who did they get? Corey Perry, Nick Foligno, who is their big name? Taylor Hall,
right?
There's a reason they've been trying to get all these players, because otherwise you're filling out your lines with Taylor Radish, Philip Kurashev, Colin Blackwell. A lot of these I'm looking at that fourth line. All of them are new players, and all of them are veterans. Nick Foligno, Ryan Donato, Corey Perry. There's a reason they're desperately trying to fill out this roster.
Yeah, and I'm going to stall for a second because I really want to take a peek at this. I want to look at the Chicago Blackhawks lines and what they are rumored to look like. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Because when you look at on Daily Faceoff, that's where I went. What their first line is rumored to look like right now. And they have Connor Bedard as the first line center. And you can't do that to a rookie. You can't do that. Connor Bedard's had that expectation his entire career, but he is going to slide into that first line center spot. I feel like a player like Bedard, I would have been more okay, and I'm sure the Blackhawks probably will do this unless he like lights the roof on fire for the preseason, or he really gives them a reason to slide him into the wherever first line center. But you know what's funny? I honestly think that if they started, and we've seen this in some examples, and I've heard the comment be made about this before. I don't remember where I heard it. I personally, because of his size and because of the type of player he is, I don't know how surprised I would be if the Blackhawks tried to start him at winger. And maybe that's me, like, that might be heresy. That might be, like, just, like, you got to let your star player play center. But, like, I don't know. I feel like let him adjust first, He can be a center later. Maybe let him adjust to the league at winger. That's when I look at a guy, I feel like if I were the Blackhawks right now, I'd try and bring in a veteran center to play along Bedard. And maybe slide Bedard at right wing. And maybe if I'm wrong and Bedard instantly lights everything on fire and he's instantly Jesus too, then you can slide him into center. But I think the expectation that he will be a first-line center immediately is just bonkers. It's ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
It is, and he's also, he's playing with Taylor Hall, which gives him a lot. But he's also playing with Lucas Reichel, who's another young player who has a combined about 30 games of NHL experience.
But can I be honest with you?
Taking.
There's a reason you don't see a lot of 5'9", 5'10" centers in the league. You put Connor Bedard in a face-off circle against a 6'4", or I don't know, throw a 6'4" name out there. That's a scary thing. You know what the Flames sometimes do? They let Lucic take face-offs. You want to see Connor Bedard in his rookie season taking face-offs against Milan Lucic? I don't. I don't want to see that. I want to protect this guy. This guy's an 18-year-old baby. Put him on the winger. Don't do that to him. He will die.
Yeah, but I'll bring it back to the just the Calder race in general. There is the I don't know. I'll ask you, Simon, if you still I'll give I'll ask you to give your Calder pick regardless of odds or anything, just your straight up pick. And I'm interested to see where you go with it. Do you still take Bedard, or with all that you've talked about?
Can I give two? Can I give two?
No, you can give one, and then
give
another one. But
okay.
you have to
Okay.
stick to your guns. This is a sports podcast. Make predictions and stand by them.
Okay, my prediction after everything I've said would still probably be that Bedard will win it because of everything. Unless some freak injury happens, like the McDavid injury, where it's just an unfortunate circumstance, what have you. I think that Bedard will probably win it anyway. And that's why I wanted to give a second one. I still think after everything I've said, Bedard's probably still going to win it. I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to say that Bedard isn't the best rookie in this class because he is. I'm just saying that I think there are reasons to have doubts and that I don't think a bad or even 60-point rookie season for Bedard is reason to throw your hands in the air. I feel like if he gets a 60-point season, I'm okay, that's good. That's a good start. You are on a bad team. I'm sure he'll show flashes, and I'm sure he'll be great. But I don't think that he is going to be that immediate first-line center that the Blackhawks really, really need right away. And if you were to ask me who my second pick would be, it's a lot tougher. Because I'm looking at all these things. Do I give the bias pick? Dustin Wolf is winning the Calder, baby! He is going to 82 games, win all 82 shutouts. He's going to get all of them.
I don't know.
He's going to be nuts.
I don't know about that. I'm biased. I'm not that biased.
I think, okay, that's me making an absurd pick just to take the fire off of myself. But I do think Dustin Wolf's going to have an insane season. I think he would be him and Shane Wright would probably be my two sleeper picks because I think there's a good chance Dustin Wolf goes off. I think there's a good chance he replaces Markstrom within the first 20 games of the season as the starter for the Flames.
Wow.
That's my big, I'm tired. Anyway, that's my big shocker pick. But I feel I don't know. Logan Cooley, maybe. That'd be my lame pick. Because he's also another guy. He played a couple years in college, I believe, one or two. Two. Well, not one, obviously. He got drafted last year, I believe, and this will be his first season. He just signed with the Coyotes. I think he's another guy who could potentially beat Bedard for the Calder, just because it's a sophomore season. He's going to be a little bigger. He's going to play. He's got some. Well, that's a complete lie. The Coyotes suck, but a bit more experience on his belt.